Okay? رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Intentions inshallah.
Ibrahim Mansur That's funny, wallah.
I want to put that in there.
You want to do it? Okay, do it.
Don't do it.
It's done. It's going to be in there.
طيب إن شاء الله.
Be careful what you guys say on camera because
طيب إن شاء الله.
this is raw أخي.
Go on.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, today we're going to deal with an issue that I've been wanting to deal with for 4 or 5 years. I've been getting emails on this particular topic for several years, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for it to not have been done up until now. And it's on the issue of self-harm. I got an email from a sister and she mentioned that basically, you know, she at the age of 12 was molested by a distant family member. She was basically sexually molested. And this has obviously left huge scars on our sister, psychological, emotional, spiritual. As a result of the pain and the suffering, she mentions in her email that she adopted a coping mechanism. And that coping mechanism is self-harm. So since the age of 15 up until now, she has been coping with her pain by inflicting harm upon herself. I don't quite understand or know how this is a coping mechanism for pain, but what I do know is that this is common in our communities. That sisters, to cope with the pain, they cut themselves, they scratch themselves, they cut themselves, marks over their wrist.
Also, brothers can do the same thing.
Brothers do the same as well. They do the same as well. But sadly, I get a lot of emails from our sisters, and it's always a lot more painful when it's a sister, you know. And she's saying that, you know, now she's at that age where she's 22 and she's ready for marriage. Her father is trying to start the marriage process for her to present her potential suitors for marriage, but she's got huge amounts of insecurity due to the experience that she's had with this man who molested her at the age of 12. She doesn't trust men. And what further adds to this is the fact that she's got scars all over her body due to the self-harm. So for her, it's like now I've further got something to be, you know, that makes her more insecure. You know, my future husband is going to see these scars, and that makes her more insecure. So she's very, very kind of, you know, like, how do I start this marriage process? How do I talk to a man? I don't trust him. And then even if I did trust him, I feel insecure because of what I have on me. So there's a lot of topics to be discussed here, and we can't discuss everything. The issue of molestation and being, you know, molested by family members, we actually did a video privately with Ustad Abdurrahman, Abu Taymiyyah, Ustad Tim Humble, and Ustad Abu Ibrahim. So that topic we're not going to mention in this video because I've already done it. If by the time this video is out, I'll put the link in the description of the bio below, so you can watch that. That's about a 45-minute discussion purely on the issue of, you know, sisters who got molested or raped or, you know, young, or by family members, right? So that's there, inshallah. We're going to tackle the issue of how to, you know, get over and become more confident, inshallah ta'ala, shortly. But I think it's important here that we focus primarily on this issue of self-harm for a moment, akhi, because that's really what I want to address in this video. Akhi, it's as if the sisters and the brothers who inflict this harm upon themselves don't know what Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam prescribed as mechanisms to cope with pain. Look, some of them, this is just one example of cutting themselves. Others, they drink alcohol. Others, they go party. Others, they drink. Others, they get high. You know, some sisters, some brothers will actually, the way that they get over the pain and suffering of a heartbreak is that they'll go and have intimacy and intercourse with loads of people. She'll say, it helps me forget about him by sleeping with other men. It helps me forget about her by sleeping with other girls. So this is all mechanisms to cope with the pain. And they're all haram. Clearly it's all haram. Cutting yourself is haram, inflicting pain on yourself. And if you happen to die because of it, then, you know, you're going to, that's, you know, we all know what's going to happen. But akhi, start with you, inshallah, Abu Abdul Aziz. What has the Sharia prescribed to cope with pain?
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in Surah Yusuf, look at Yaqub alayhi salam. he lost Yusuf alayhi salam, and he was crying. So they said, قالوا تالله تفتأ تذكر يوسف حتى تكون حرضة أو تكون من الهالكين. You will cease to remember Yusuf alayhi salam until you become weak.
You carry on.
You carry on until you become weak, or you become of those who are destroyed. So what did he say afterwards? He said, قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. Verily I complain of my grief and sorrow to Allah Azza wa Jal. So in this life, all of us, we have problems. All of us, we have problems, mashakil. But as they say, ashakwa ila Allah. We complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't complain to the human beings. That's why the Prophet says, لا تسألن بني آدم حاجة واسأل الذي أبوابه لا تحجب الله يغضب إن تركت السؤال وبني آدم حين يسأل يغضب. Don't ask the son of Adam for anything. And ask the one who his gates are never shut. Allah will get angry from you when you don't ask him. And when the son of Adam, you ask him something, he gets angry. So, likewise also complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Get up in the last third of the night. Make dua that Allah Azza wa Jal removes you from your pain and removes you from your suffering. But harming yourself, it is not the way forward. The Prophet said, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. That you should not harm yourself and harm others. And that's what the Prophet said, no sorrow and no grief, or not even like a thorn which is pricked when a believer, except his sins will be forgiven.
SubhanAllah.
Except for his sins will be forgiven. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to reward you for all the trials that you've gone through, that Allah Azza wa Jal forgives you of your sins, that Allah Azza wa Jal makes things easier for you.
That's really profound, because look, the suffering that anyone suffers from, whatever that suffering might be, is actually a means to Jannah. As like the Prophet said, that every moment of that pain and that all that pain that you're going through, and only Allah knows how much pain and suffering that you're going through, my sister or other sisters out there, but that is all a means of reward for you. It's either expiating your sins, and we will sin, or it is increasing on our scale of good deeds. And you come back to the issue of Yaqub alayhi salam, because wallahi, I was doing tadabbur over that same ayah literally a few days ago, and that section where I was reading Surah Yusuf. Wallahi, if you look Surah Yusuf, wallahi, Yaqub alayhi salam, wallahi, he suffered. He had his youngest son, who was his most beloved son, taken away from him at the age of 7. Can you have pain greater than that? Then what happens? His other son gets taken away from him, Benjamin, his other second youngest son, his next most beloved son. So he loses these two sons, and he's in so much pain that he becomes blind. The pain and the suffering makes him blind. Shed so much tears. He literally goes blind. Yet what? Throughout that, he never complained to anyone except Allah. And he also never lost hope that things will get better.
It's true, you're right. He says that
لا تيأسوا من روح الله.
إنه لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم
Is it sorry?
إنه لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم
الكافرين. That no one, he said to his sons, when his sons were saying to him, your dad, you're going to be destroyed. You keep talking about Yusuf all day, every day.
You're going to come ill, you're going to kill yourself.
And it's like they were trying to say, he's gone. Yusuf's not come back, just live with it, Dad. But he responded and said, don't despair in the hope that Allah can make things better. Only ones who do that are the kuffar. And he had certainty that Allah, look at this. Whilst he was complaining to Allah, making dua to Allah and turning to Allah, he had certainty that Allah would rectify his affairs. And what did Allah do? Allah brought both his sons back to him. You see, so wallahi, you have to, it's not just a may Allah please make things better, but have that yaqeen, have that certainty.
One point that I'd like to mention to the brothers and sisters is that here we're not necessarily talking about mental illnesses all the time, because mental illness, we know it's an illness. It's a sometimes they say chemical imbalance or something like that
in the brain,
and that's not what we're talking about necessarily all the time, because we know that there are medical, people can go seek medical help for those kind of things,
and they should,
and
primarily from a Muslim,
and especially Muslims, like not necessarily Muslims, sorry, people who are not from let's just say countries which are well educated, they think that all mental illnesses are just spiritual problems. That's what they think. They think all of them it might be a jinn. It's a jinn. Not necessarily all the time.
Even though a lot of them are, but not
even
all
though
the
a lot
time.
of them are, exactly. Even though a lot of them are, but it's not all the time. So people, you don't have to understand from us that we're saying that don't seek medical help. No, that's different. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a situation of how to deal with pain. How to deal with pain according to the Quran and the Sunnah.
Sahih. Akhi, do you have any practical steps of how to cope with pain? So one, let's make sure we have them. Is complain only to Allah. Don't complain to the creation. Some people, they don't complain to the creation. They don't even complain to Allah. They keep it hidden themselves. And when you keep it hidden yourselves, that's when you're gonna cut your wrist to release. It's like a release, right? But wallahi, pour your heart and your eyes out to Allah in sajda and in dua and in the last third of the night, right? So that's one practical step. Akhi, what's another one to cope with pain?
To cope with pain. So we need to realize we're not just talking about mental illness. We're talking about a person who's going through hardship in his life.
Depression,
He's
sadness, stress,
molestation. We just said someone's been molested.
heartbreak,
all these kind of things.
family problems.
This is what we're talking about. We're talking about this kind of situation, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala tells us about the cure for all sorts of sadnesses in the Quran. Allah says, "Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'minun falanuhyiyannahu hayatan tayyibah." Whoever does good deeds from a male or female, doesn't know this, no discrimination here. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and you're a believer. Allah says, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. We're going to make him live a good life. A good life. What does a good life mean? It encompasses all parts of life. All parts of your life is going to be good. And even if you go through hardship, you're going to realize through these hardships that Allah is going to bring something good from it. Yani, a person, they realize that this dunya is a test. When this person realizes that he sees that when Allah tests me, I'm going higher and higher in my levels of Jannah. So it's good for him. When and this is the Prophet ﷺ said, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. The affair of the believer is strange.
How wonderful is it?
How wonderful. It's so strange and wonderful that when something good happens to him, he's thankful. So then that's good for him. فَهُوَ خَيْرُ اللَّهِ. And if something bad happens to him, he's patient. فَهُوَ خَيْرُ اللَّهِ. And it's good for him as well.
And it's only for the believer.
And it's only for the believer.
And that's profound, because you can have every blessing in the world, but if you don't do shukr, you will never be able to enjoy it.
Exactly.
The moment you get a nice car, you're going to look at the guy who's got the car better than you and feel sad and depressed because you were not grateful. And you will never be able to enjoy the hardship unless you have sabr.
Exactly.
So a person who combines, because Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said your life is going to revolve between difficulty and blessings. So when the difficulty comes, you need sabr, and when the blessings come, you need shukr, because that same blessing can be a means of punishment for you if you don't come with gratitude. Because I think that's what a lot of us are here suffering. Again, not this particular sister who's had this molestation, because that's actually a suffering, but a lot of people, I find a lot of brothers and sisters wallahi are suffering from depression and sad. They don't have any substantial problems in their life. They don't. It's not like they actually have turmoil. It's like this happened, that happened, small things happen and they break down. The problem is not that they need to come with sabr because of a calamity, rather their problem is that they haven't come with shukr upon the blessing. So because you don't have gratitude to Allah for these blessings, it feels like this is a calamity upon you.
We'll build upon that. This specific sister who's going through hardships in her life, what do we advise her? How can we advise her to get, how can she overcome these kind of things? We say that, look, you've gone through hardship, sister. You've gone through hardship. Realize that this dunya is a test. It's not going to last forever. If you're patient, your reward's going to be Jannah. If you're patient, your reward's going to be Jannah. Look at the end. Don't look at where you're in right now. And yes, you're going through hardship. We're not denying that. And we're not belittling that. She's going through hardship that I can never imagine. Me personally, I can't imagine that. And just hearing it makes my skin crawl. But Allah tells us that you're going to go through hardships. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. You're going to be scared, you're going to be hungry, you're going to lose your money. Even the prophet people behind us, they were tested to a point حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. The messenger at the time was saying, where's the help of Allah? Not out of ungratefulness, but they're waiting for the help of Allah. So you're going to go through hardship in this life. And the way to overcome that is to realize it. When you know something, you know how to go past it. You realize you're gonna go through these hardships, so try to look at the end goal instead of just dwelling in it.
Yeah, it's like you don't complain when you come across a test paper that's difficult because you know it was supposed to test your abilities. It's supposed to be hard. If a test paper was easy, A-levels, university, GCSE, then it defeats the purpose, right? So a believer knows this is a test.
Yeah, without belittling.
Without belittling, no doubt it's painful, it's difficult. But at the end of it, it's a test. Do you see? And Jannah is not going to come easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Allah said to the people, remember the Sahaba, they were tested crazy. Like Sumayya radiallahu anha was murdered by having a spear stabbed in between her legs and her private parts. That's how they killed her, radiallahu anha. She was, by the way, the first martyr in Islam, and it happened to be a woman, was the first one who died for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his religion. Okay, that's pain. Bilal radiallahu anhu was tortured by having boulders placed on his chest to crush him. Musab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu was shackled and chained in his house by his own mum, right? I'm saying this is pain. Khabbab ibn Arat radiallahu anhu was laid down flat on charcoal, and bits of his back was peeling off because the burn marks was imprinted on his back. They burnt him on charcoal.
Ammar ibn Yasir saw his mother, that happened to his mother Sumayya.
Yeah.
Saw it. Look at the psychological pain that he felt as well. So not just physical, he saw his own mum being killed like that.
The one who was stabbed, radiallahu anhu, and he was a boy, the son who saw that. So I'm saying this is crazy. So these Sahaba are now, like, some of them are thinking, why are we being tested? You know, we're not doing anything wrong. I didn't deserve this. You know, I'm young. Why is it happening to me? Why am I being tested in this way? And Allah said, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Allah said, did the people think that just because they say we believe, that they're not going to be tested? That they're not going to be placed in fitna? And then Allah said in the next ayah that certainly we will test them like we tested those before. Why? So we can differentiate those who are truthful when they say we believe and those who are fake. It's very easy to practice the religion. It's very easy to wear the niqab when no one's attacking you on the street. It's very easy for you to wear the jilbab when your mum and dad are okay with it. It's very easy for you to go to the masjid when the masjid is just down the road. But brothers and sisters, are you going to implement that sharia of Allah when it becomes hard? That's when your iman is being tested now. Is wallahi, if there was no one, if everyone could get a job just because they grew a beard, then everyone would grow the beard, right? There would be no problem. But now you're being rejected because you're fulfilling the sunnah and the command of the Prophet ﷺ. Now is the time we're going to see when you said amanna, it's true, because Allah said about the hypocrites, إذا جاءكم المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسول والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. The hypocrites used to come and they used to testify. They used to say on their tongue, we believe. We testify you're the messenger. But Allah said, والله يشهد والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. Allah testifies and bear witnesses that they're liars. For them it's just something on the tongue. So we're not trying to say you're hypocrites or anything like that. This is something for all of us, right? But when we are tested, this is so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can establish for us, are we real when we said it? So don't now come to drink and alcohol, and don't come now to cutting your wrists and meat, you know. It's hard, no doubt the pain is tough. But wallahi, my sisters, my brothers, remember, don't look at the ones, don't look at yourself and the ones above you. Look at those who are below you. In terms of those who suffered more, no one suffered more than the Prophet ﷺ. Wallahi, no one. Look, he didn't have a single child that survived him. Not a single child. Except for Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. Zainab radiallahu anha was killed as a result of the Prophet ﷺ's da'wah. She was attacked by the enemies of Quraysh, and that wound that she suffered many years later, because of it, she died. Khadija radiallahu anha, the beloved of the Prophet ﷺ, she died because of the famine that she experienced, the poverty, because of what? Because of the boycott that the Quraysh put on the Prophet ﷺ because of his da'wah, and she became weak and she died. The Prophet experienced pain. We can go on, wallahi. It's too much.
From a young age, look, he lost his father, then he lost his mother, and then he lost his grandfather. And then after that, his uncle, Abu Talib. And then afterwards, his wife, on the same year. And then he went to Taif, they stoned him.
And upon that, your mum, your dad, your uncle, your grandfather, your only family, you know they're all going to go to Jahannam. You know, so I'm saying, but how did the Prophet cope? How did the dhikr of Allah? The dhikr of Allah. Allah bi dhikri Allahi tatma'innu al-qulub. Verily, with the remembrance of Allah, Allah said to the hearts find peace. The Prophet used to tell Bilal, you know, bring us peace with the salah.
أرحنا بها يا بلال.
used to find it in the salah,
And
you know.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ آمَنوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Verily those who believe and whose hearts they find rest in the remembrance of Allah. Verily the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal do the hearts find rest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say about in Surah Al-Hujarat, Surah Al-Hijr? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. We know that you get harmed by what they say. They call you a magician. They call you someone who's majnoon. They spoke about you. This. Sorry, this is me.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, brother.
No problem.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we know that your breast, you get upset what people say to you. They call them a sahir, a magician. They call them majnoon. They spoke ill about him. What is the solution? فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُن مِّنَ السَّاجِدِينَ. Make dhikr of Allah, make tasbih of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and be of those that prostrate and worship Allah until certainty, until death comes to you. We know that all of us, people harm us by their words, but what's the solution? The dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla.
And you know, the opposite is also true. You know how the ayah you mentioned where Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentioned that anyone who's a believer, man and woman, righteous actions, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُمْ حَيَاةٌ طَيِّبَةٌ, Allah will give them a good life. The opposite is also true in Surah Taha. What did Allah say? وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ. Anyone who turns away from the remembrance of Allah, anyone who doesn't do dhikr, anyone who doesn't pray, anyone who doesn't do righteous actions, anyone who does sin, Allah said that person's going to live a depressed life. And in the next life, it's going to be even worse. Do you see? So clearly we have a direct link between ibadah and that spiritual connection between Allah and the quality of your life. The quality of your life is not dependent upon not having pain and suffering and having lots of blessings. No. The quality of your life is dependent upon the connection that your heart has to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
There's some people are going to be thinking, but what about those guys, those people who got all the money in the world? And how do I know what's the reality? And you guys are just saying this. Does the dhikr bring me a Ferrari? They say that. They're gonna say that. Akhi. Wallah, I realize that this is something that people feel. Wallahi, people feel this happiness. People that are living today, they feel this happiness. Whether you're walking around, they just want to jump up because they're so happy, because they know that Allah is with them. Ibrahim ibn Adham, when he went to the sea, he was holding dry bread. Bread goes stale. He was holding dry bread, dipping it into the sea, eating it, and he was saying to his companion, if the kings knew what was in, and if the kings and the sons of the kings, they knew what was in our heart from happiness and all this joy that we have, they would fight us with their swords for this happiness that we have. It's not a joke. It's not something.
They have nothing. It's in their
They
heart.
have nothing. All they have is dry bread, dipping it into the sea. Not even tap water. We have tap water. They're dipping it into the sea and eating it like that. And this guy's happy. He's like content with everything. He doesn't need anything in his life. That's real, man.
So Abdurrahman, he mentioned that in Somalia, where he lives, there's a man. His life, wallahi, all he does is he has 7 sweets. He has 7 sweets as well, and he sells them. And he doesn't make more than 7. He doesn't make less, because the value of how much he sells these sweets for, what he makes, is enough for him to basically live. So every day he will just take these 7 sweets and he'll sell them, and he finishes work early. Literally at the beginning of his day, the 7 sweets are gone. He could make more, but he doesn't need more for his basic needs and food. But because of that, he said, you will never find anyone happier than him. He has very little. Just imagine, how much money do you make from selling 7 sweets? Not a lot. But he said, you will never find anyone happier than him. And you won't find anyone, you will not ever beat him to the front row of the masjid. And you will never beat him to the front row, sitting next to the sheikh in the halaqah. He said, he's the first in the masjid, last in the masjid. And he's the happiest. Wallahi, like look at our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He left this world, and his shield, which was one of his very few possessions, was marhoon. It was basically with a Jewish guy. He didn't have much. The one thing that he had he didn't even die with it in his possession. One of the few things, it wasn't even in his possession. It was in the possession of a Jewish guy. And Aisha radiallahu anha said 3 months went by in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's house. The fire wasn't lit, meaning nothing was cooked for 3 months. He used to have 2 stones on his stomach. They used to have a stone that used to wrap around his stomach to compress the pain because of the hunger. The Prophet used to have 2 because of his hunger. yet he left this world smiling. He looked at his Sahaba praying, Salah, Fajr, Salah, content with them. He looked at his ummah before he died, alayhi, smiling, happy, content leaving this world. Because he had Allah Azza wa Jal.
He knew he was going somewhere good.
He knew he was going somewhere good.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, SubhanAllah. Wallahi. It's one of those things that.
Naam.
You have to put in work in it, akhi.
Yeah, man. It's not easy. It's not easy life, man. You're gonna go through hardships.
Life is, the Sha'ar, he says سمت تكاليف الحياة ومن يعش 80 حولا لا يبالك يسمي. That I got sick and tired of the hardship of life. I got sick and tired of hardship of life. And the one who lives past 80 years old, he reaches 80 years old, will get bored of life. So meaning life is full of, Allah said, لَقَدْ خَلْقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. That we created man in hardship. This life, there's a lot of mashaqqa, there's a lot. It's not easy. But if you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with you, and the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal and your ibadah, بإذن الله تعالى, it's going to make things a lot easier for you. If you have Allah Azza wa Jal in your life.
The end is for the believers, for those people of taqwa.
And some people might be like, oh, I did dhikr one or twice, or I did this, but I don't feel anything. Imagine how much of our lives do we spend in sin? How much of our lives do we spend disconnected from Allah? Imagine if there is a pot, and it's been gathering filth and dirt for years and years, never been cleaned once, years and years and years. Are you going to be able to clean it just by putting it under the sink once? You're going to have to scrub hard. Might have to get some lasers to get that rust. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you're going to have to go for a process. So the heart is similar, as in it absorbs the sin and the filth, and it has effect. So, and the beauty I always notice, wallah alam, I always notice that people, the time they spend doing dhikr, to clean the heart is always faster than making it dirty. Now you might have spent 10 years making your heart dirty due to sin and feeling depressed and sad, but spend a few weeks, a few months doing dhikr and it will be clean. You won't have to do it for 10 years, but you'll have to do it for a bit of time. I remember there was a brother I met and he was going through extreme pain because his girlfriend broke his heart. And he said, I tried everything, started getting drugs, everything to get over it. But he said, I said, let me try this Fajr in the masjid thing. He said, I started going Fajr in the masjid. 14 days later, he said, I was cured. He said, exactly, I know the 14th day, I was happier than I've ever been. So you see, you have to be patient and try it.
So advice to the sister.
Wallahi sister, all of this confidence, that you're struggling, with regards to speaking to your future husbands and whatnot, this pain and this insecurities, it's what will inshallah ta'ala aid you to overcome this is to really intensify in your dhikr, to intensify in your ibadah, to intensify in your begging Allah, your complaining to Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal can uplift this from you. We know people who have suffered, like we said, Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, he saw not just his mum, even his father killed and murdered before his own eyes. Yet look how he became. He became one of the governors of Islam. He was appointed as one of the governors of Islam. So what you experience in your childhood doesn't necessarily have to define the way you're going to be in the future. Rather, it's with Allah's tawfiq and His permission, the things that you do that will actually shape your situation. So the primary thing is to really engage in that spiritual relationship with Allah to give you the strength. And upon that, it's not bad to go and get counselling and help like that, as Brother Yasin mentioned. I would personally really advise you to go to Muslim organisations, because counsellors can tell you some stuff that can be non-Islamic because they're not sensitive to the Islamic needs and requirements. But primarily go and try and find an Islamic counsellor. Speak to her, if you're a sister, speak to if you're a guy, to help build that confidence back in you. There's nothing wrong with that, but the foundation is the Sharia. Do you guys want to say anything?
Yeah, well, we're saying we're not experts at Islamic counselling and psychological problems. We're not experts at that. I wouldn't even say we're experts at Islamic stuff, but we're trying to give advice, and the advice that we're coming from the angle of Islamically. As for the medical way, that's not what we're talking about right now. That take it to the experts.
And we would strongly recommend you to do that. Allah says,
ask the people of knowledge, innit? So
I'm saying, so the ones who know about that, they know about that. So you can go to counsellors, You can go to Islamic organizations that help the sisters to come over this kind of pain and trauma, you know.
But in the end, know that the cure's from Allah.
Yeah,
And you know, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give shifa
to the hearts.
To the hearts, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to all those Muslims that are going through all these problems, that Allah Azza wa Jal cures them of their problem, and that Allah Azza wa Jal makes it easier for them. You know, that Allah Azza wa Jal removes them from their hardship, and that He rewards them for their calamity that they're going through. Because this is a calamity, it's a test from Allah Azza wa Jal.
آمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.